in terms of leveraging your technology in command, you can do a quick check of your database health, and it will tell you the health of your database compared to other agents in our market center and other agents across the country. Be sure to check in reports. You can also look up your lead sources, and you can check your conversion rate in report in command. And then referrals, you can track your agent to agent referrals. In Smart Plan, part of what we talked about in that 36 touch is the quarterly call campaign and the monthly neighborhood nurtures. So that's, if you do monthly neighborhood nurtures and the quarterly call plan, that is 16 touches just like that. So then you just have to think, okay, what are my other 20 touches? Let's see. Designs, agent sites, all of that. Those are some other ways that you can leverage technology, page 4.19. Take a look at page 4.21. And I would like for you to just take a few minutes and write down your ideas. How many contacts do you need to achieve the goals on your economic model? So go back to what page is the economic model pro forma on for your goal? It is 3.17. 3.17. And how many contacts do you need to achieve the goal of your economic model? I'm sorry. That's okay. Either one is fine. You can use either one.
Just make a note that you put your pro forma in the actual.
Yeah.
But I guess the actual would be where you are
today, for your projections, where you want to go, where you want to be.
So based on what your conversion rate is, all of those things, how many contacts do you need to be able to get to the number that is in your economic model?
4,000.
Okay. And then write down how many contacts you have today. And then where's the gap? And how many do you need to add each month to get to that gap, to close that gap? Right? So Danielle, were you able to jot down? So how many contacts do you need to add each month, or do you already have what you need?
No, I do not. I need to add 413 a month.
A month. So if you break that down, that's 100 and
103
per week.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you do? It is, and that's the number that will help you achieve your goal.
Right.
So just thinking through, what combination could you do from face-to-face, prospecting, and marketing?
Right.
Okay, and then jot down your current and future lead sources, your activity, and your touch campaigns. And then just flip over now to page 4.23. And this is actually your business plan. So, how many contacts are in your database? What's the goal? And then the event. So Danielle, yours would be add number of contacts under your monthly goal, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And then you add under the weekly goal, how many contacts do I need to add each week? How many phone calls or text messages, as long as it's two-way conversation?
How do you determine that?
What's that?
Either the number of phone calls or text messages.
What you would do is you would track it and say, because what you're trying to get to is how many appointments.
Okay.
right?
So part of it is learning your conversion rate. How many calls do I need to make to get to the appointment? So you may not have that exactly yet.
That if you do the, whatever, the D2, whatever, you know, in order to contact your database, you know, 4 times a year,
Right.
you know, you need to do it.
Yeah, you could do it that way. So in order to, you have 4,000, right, is your goal. 4,000 people in your database.
Well, I need.
Yeah, so roughly, and then you would take that and divide it by, that's your total, so by 12, and if you're contacting them quarterly, that would be how many calls to make per quarter, and then you break it down by month,
Okay.
and then by week. That's another way to go about that, if you don't know your conversion, your call to appointment conversion. And like Caleb said, in the sales meeting, this Caleb Avery, you know, you could make lots of calls and get no's, and then make one quote lucky call and get the appointment, right? So that's the number that you need, whatever that number is, because it's not the one lucky call, it's the volume of calls that you're making.
Yeah, he made a great point. It's the conversations. How many conversations, when we talk about prospecting, it's how many people are you talking to? And the more people you talk to, the more opportunities you're giving yourself every single time. And so it's an accumulation of those conversations. And so just keep giving yourself an opportunity just by talking to people.
And I was doing some research yesterday in preparation for this, and I looked on KW Connect to see if there were other things specifically about business planning clinics that I could watch and sort of beef up in preparation for presenting. And in the process, I stumbled upon a ton of learning resources. So there is, for example, a video that you can watch about just conversations to have. Like, I don't know what to say. There's a video for that, right? I just got in an email, there's a video from a MAPS coach about how to handle holiday objections. And she's got like this 5-minute video where she's doing a role play with somebody to overcome holiday objections. So we have so many resources. If you're stuck on something, look there. If you can't find what you're looking for, ask leadership and we can point you in direction of multiple people. So, are you good filling out your 411 for lead gen as best you can for now? Have you filled out what you can?
I think I'm still a little foggy on the math to get to what those calls into the front table, but.
Isn't there an MRE page that gives like kind of like how they provide the model for like an average commission and average all that? Isn't there like an average calls
I'll
equals?
pull my book and just.
I think so too, yeah. That was in bold that you talked about.
Yeah.
It's different for all of us, but at least it kind of gives a place to start, and it does feel overwhelming when you're like trying to create a goal.
That gives me that, like,
Yeah.
now I'm frozen, I can't. So,
Yeah.
I need to figure out what that is, but.
Okay. Tell me, look at page 4.25. And I'm gonna just remind you the things that we talked about during the lead gen section. We talked about prospecting versus marketing. We talked about different lead gen activities. Talked about lead sources, the 4 sources, what are they? We talked a lot about your database, traps to avoid, and how you can leverage command. So given all of that, what are some of your ahas from this last section? Take a minute and just think about that and write down what are 1 or 2 ahas on lead gen that you've had today.
Won't give up after the first call and they don't answer.
19 to connect,
Let's call them 5 more times.
at least 5, right? Up to 19. That's a great aha. Don't make it about you, right? Call people until they tell you not to call them anymore. And then here's a little trick I do. If somebody, and I've had a couple of people tell me not to call them anymore. And so I go in and I add under their first name. Let's say it's Victoria Watts, and they're like, please don't call me anymore. So I'll go in and edit your name to do not call Victoria Watts. Because if I just archive you, then if I see you later, I may add you again, and you're like, I told you not to call me anymore. But if it's here, then I'll know. Okay, that's those contact you. Or you could use the tag that way too. Or both. Okay, from those ahas, what are some actions that you will take as a result of those ahas on lead gen? 1, 2, 3 actions. Write that in page 4.25.
Interesting thing about the lead gen model are those are the things that we should be taking action on every day. These are the activities. And so, you know, some of this might be things that take a little bit of time for you to kind of figure out and truly implement, but when it comes to lead gen, that's something you can do when you get out of this class, right? Or at least start to set up the systems so that you can go implement it in your business starting tomorrow. But, yeah.
Who had one action that they plan to take that you are willing to share with the group?
I'm gonna create an online ad because I don't really do. I tend to be like an old soul where I like to put things in the mail and don't do much online because I just don't like it. But if that's what the top producers are saying, then heck yeah, I'm gonna listen.
Because you get a lot of, and it takes a while, 19 to connect,
Yeah.
right? And you still add people through that funnel. That's what, that's where you get the big come in, and then once you connect, then it goes down.
Let me
Good.
suggest that you do a follow-up plan for that before you just run it.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, give some kind of smart plan or follow-up plan for that ad.
And if leads come in, for example, through Facebook, if your smart plan is set up that way, it can automatically tag them to go into X smart plan.
Leads that come through Facebook are going to take nurturing.
Yeah.
And so that's really good wisdom there, Kathy, is you're just gonna have to make sure you have a great nurture program for that. The other thing, you know, Google pay-per-click, Google Ads, those are other forms. So we think oftentimes, I know I do, I initially think Facebook, but Google Ads and Google pay-per-click are also, and the reason why I think a lot of top agents are using them is because they're affordable.
Yeah.
And if you run it on average, every lead in command on average is less than $2 a lead.
Yeah.
So that's
A lot cheaper than Zillow leads.
yeah, that's the statistics, right? So
And I was gonna say that, I was reading, in a real estate mastermind group that the utilization of your Google, your business profile, is on, because if you think about Zillow or Realtor, they're getting most of their, leads from Google. So by utilizing your Google, your business and the ads there, you're essentially in a smaller scale, being able to capture those same leads by
Yes.
utilizing your whole platform through Google as well. So, I like the online ad, and then, like what she said, to set up a smart plan, because sometimes we can get so many leads that we don't have
the bandwidth, yep,
Yeah.
yep.
I think one of my takeaways was, it's very interesting that the lead generation activity is in the definition of each of these different areas, so between prospecting and marketing. And what I said I was gonna do is to, try to, diversify some of my activities. But I'm still gonna double down on what is converting for me, but, going in and diversifying what that looks like over there.
Okay.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I would encourage, my suggestion when it comes to lead generation is get great at 2 or 3 of them, but then still start to implement certain things on a certain level, but don't stretch yourself so thin. Right? Because when we start to stretch it so thin, one, it becomes harder to track where they're coming from. 2, it's harder for us to track return on investment. 3, it's harder for us to track red light, green light. Is this something that's actually producing? So I want to continue it. So if we don't, red light, green light means I'm investing in this and I'm seeing my business grow. I want to continue. Green light, right? Like this is helping me grow. Or I invested in such and such magazine, such and such ad. I'm not seeing any return, red light. But if you've got your irons in so many fires, it's going to be harder to be able to know when to pull out of something.
Thank you for defining it. Like,
Oh, good. All right, so we are going to honor y'all's time. We said 3 o'clock, we're gonna do it. Budget model. So the beautiful thing about the budget model is you've already heard the budget model. It is essentially our 30-30-40 model. But what the budget model also is if you look at page 5.1, it's 2 tools in one. It's your budget, it's your goal setting and planning tool. It's also your P&L. This is your management tool and snapshot. What I would also say, and this is one thing that Crystal produces every month for the market center, is a balance sheet. So that's a third that I would say you should, because the balance sheet is going to track your assets and liabilities, and it's going to track your net worth as well. So if you don't know what your net worth is, I would encourage you to, honestly, one of the easiest ways is to download Mint as a Mint from Intuit, QuickBooks, all of it. They do all of that. Mint is a great wealth tracking tool. It's also a great tool to track your personal expenses. You can add your real estate investments. You can add your whatever tool you're doing to invest in the stock market, Vanguard or Robinhood, whatever it might be. It can pull all of your accounts into one. Some people are freaked out about that concept because they don't like their information being online. It's there, folks. It's there. You're already at risk if you don't know. But mint.com is a great way to track this, but again, it's a tool. So if it's a spreadsheet, just have something that's going to track it. So we're going to get into that a little bit. The budget model reflects the money you make, the money you spend, and the amount left over. So this is what's going to help you find out what is my true profit. It helps you minimize your expenses to maximize your net income. Especially in the market we're in right now, you should be running lean. We have to be lean. We have to be tracking our expenses. If you're not tracking your expenses, then you might be spending more and you're not making as much as you think. You might be getting all sorts of things coming in. You might be selling a home every other day, but if you don't know if you're actually making money, you're kind of operating in the wild, right? Like the wilderness. So having these models is what's going to help you know your business. It's going to help you know your numbers. The budget model keeps you from spending money on shiny objects. So there's always somebody trying to sell you something from a lead gen standpoint. So it keeps you on track. Cheryl mentioned it earlier. I heard Gary Keller say it before I ever got into real estate. I was listening to the One Thing podcast, and he said with his charitable giving, he sets exactly his budget for charities at the start of the year, and he knows exactly what he wants to spend. He's very charitable, but you're always getting hit up. Can you donate to this? Can you donate to that? And he says, like, I'm sorry, I can't. I've already set my charitable budget, but I'm going to keep you in mind for next year. And so that way it's like an easier way to say no, because he's already set aside that money and he's not so full to go give when he already is giving what he knows he should spend. Now, I'm not saying that's what everybody does. Give out of the kindness of your heart. All right, I said that. But the money spent, your expenses. So we talked about the 30% on your cost of sales, 30% on expenses. Your expenses are your cost of doing business. For every dollar invested, you should be expecting a multiplier. What am I getting back for that? What's my return on that investment? Regarding accounting, you may want to consider, if you don't like numbers, if you're not good at tracking it, find somebody who is. Hire a bookkeeper, get a CPA, or an accountant, somebody that's going to help you with your numbers and help you track it. I would encourage you to have QuickBooks, so that way you can hand it off and they will actually do it for a little bit more affordable if you're providing them something other than all of your paper receipts in a folder. So, QuickBooks is an easy way to be able to track your ongoing expenses and be able to track your numbers as well. The benefits of the budget model: ability to assess whether you're running your business efficiently, evaluate your investments. Are you an investment?
Next slide,
Are we?
there.
Yep, thank you. Are you investing? Are you tracking what your return is on your investments? If you own an investment property or if you're buying stocks, do you know what that return is? The nice thing is a lot of your stock market investing, it provides you that, but if you're not investing in real estate, like Miss Crystal James is going to be doing through the next 5 years, you should be tracking what your actual return on that investment is. You have to understand there's cost of doing business for that. You're going to have to maintain the property. You're going to have to occasionally cover the gap when there's vacancy. There's costs that go unrecognized. So if you're renting a home for $1,000 but your mortgage is only $600, guess what? Your cash flow is not $400 because you still have those expenses. It provides a benchmark for what's possible for your business. It gives a framework for categorizing and examining expenses. You need to be examining your expenses consistently. And then it provides a common language for agents to speak to each other about their business. All right. So invest, don't spend. If I hired somebody, if I hired an admin, I would hope that that admin is going to help me grow my business by 3 times. That's what the model says. They should be able to take my business up because they're leveraged. Now there's different types of leverage. A person is going to actually help you grow. Somebody that's a virtual assistant, more so that's providing you relief. It's going to take time, maybe give you back some time or relieve some of that pressure on your business, and you might grow some, but that lead admin, that person you're going to work with directly, is somebody that if you're investing in that person, they should help your business grow. If you hire a buying agent, they should help you grow 2 times your ROI. And then if you're investing in your lead gen, typically you're looking for a 10x on your lead generation. Know what your number is, know what your expectation is. If you're hiring somebody, you need to know what my expectation is. I don't want to just hire this person and see how it goes. Hire that person with some intentionality of what I want to see that investment look like. And then practice accountability, not accounting. Don't think of accounting as an obligation. It's holding your money accountable, right? You got to make sure that you're holding your money accountable. All right.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Are those numbers somewhere that you just read off, like the expectation for 3 10?
It's 3 times for the admin, 2 times for the buyer, 10 times for the
lead gen. And so, but again, like let's say you made an investment on a billboard. It's gonna be hard. Just understand the difference between the two. We talked about marketing and prospecting. It's gonna be a lot harder to understand what your return on investment is if you put a billboard, because unless somebody tells you they saw your billboard. Now that's brand awareness. I think it's important, but just understand it's gonna be a little bit harder to track what that return on your investment is. So starting out when it comes to marketing, I would encourage somebody to spend it on something that you can actually see the statistics, how many clicks, how many views, how many leads directly from that. And that's the nice thing about online marketing.
So that lead gen, would that look like, outside of that, would that potentially be like that ISA type deal?
So ISA is going to look more, so ISA is an interesting one.
Okay.
Your ISA is probably going to fall into your expense bucket
Okay.
because they are part of your lead gen, right? They are helping you lead gen. So you are investing in lead generation, but it's probably on a salary. But you might also be compensating them if they're licensed as a part of cost of sale. And so there might be a little bit of both. It just depends on, and again, that comes down to tracking your numbers and how you're compensating that person. So we're going to give them compensation as well. All right, next slide. All right, so we're going to just quickly define this. Number 1, cost of sale is the payment made after the transaction is complete to maybe a listing or a buyer specialist. It includes commissions paid to your broker, royalties, referral fees. So if you got a referral and you're gonna give them 25% for bringing that referral to you, that's a cost of sale because that's a percentage of your gross commission income. We're gonna talk later about the 7 levels of the organizational model. And you'll see that a buyer agent shows up in level 4 of that model. And your first listing agent shows up on level 5. One thing we see that's outside of model, but again, you know, these are your best practices. These are the things that the millionaire real estate agents are doing. They're hiring buyer agents. They're hiring listing specialists. Oftentimes what we tend to see is people just hiring an agent on their team and they're going to do both and there's going to be a split. That's not actually the model. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Gross profit, number 2 there is revenue left over after cost of sales. Do we understand that? Do I need to go further? Okay. Operating expenses, the cost of running business, whether or not a transaction occurs. So you're paying it no matter what. And then your net income is your pre-tax income after cost of sales and operating expenses. Okay, so that's the beauty there is that's pre-tax income. Okay. Is there, yeah, next slide.
I'm just wondering, okay.
All right. So the budget model benchmarks. Understand, a benchmark is something to strive for. All right. What you're going to see on a future slide is hard to do, but this is the benchmark. This is what you should be striving for. It's the 30, 30, 40. These are based on a team. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Your cost of sales probably not going to be as high. So it's just a matter of how you want to divvy that up. If you're going to pay yourself and still follow this model, or if you're just going to say, instead of it being a 30% cost of sales, I don't have a team. I'm only taking 15% on that cost of sales because I still have to pay my brokerage, I still have to pay the royalty fee, I still have to pay referral agents. The other thing that this sometimes doesn't take effect is in markets that are a lower cost of living. The home prices are a little bit lower. I was down in Danville the other day and they were talking about their price point still being like a hot market is 150 to 170. I mean, obviously it's very hot here, but we just don't have it probably as many properties as they have in Danville. And so your expenses are going to be a little bit higher because you're having to generate more units. And so to generate more units, you've got to spend more money in your marketing and advertising. All right. Any questions about that? So we'll go to the next slide. We're going to break this down a little bit. So again, just a reminder, these are your MREA percentages. This is based on the information that was gathered when Gary interviewed hundreds of millionaire real estate agents from across the country, and this is their model. It could be different, and it will be different for agents of different success levels. For cost of sale, let's see, right here. Here's our cost of sale. Here's our operating expenses. These are the things you can assume will come from your cost of sales, and these are the things that you should be accounting for. And it helps us shape our mindset to what those expenses look like from a business standpoint. But your cost of sale is going to be your listing specialist, your buyer specialist, and then other costs of sale. And for the millionaire real estate agent, they're going to be expecting to spend about $125,000, which is 5% of their GCI, while their buyer specialist is $625, which is 25%. Now, understanding that that is only a portion, because if you remember, that is adding up to this $750, right? It's the same with our operating expenses. That's that $750. So there's our 30%, there's our 30%, but we're going to pay our buyer specialists more because they're going to have to do all that running around with buyers, right? And it's going to take more time, more energy, and that listing specialist is getting handed a really nice opportunity to market and to be able to list that home, and you should be able to do that in a less time-intensive manner. When it comes to your operating expenses, these are 9 categories. We've got compensation, we've got lead generation, we've got occupancy, education and coaching, supplies and office expenses, communication and tech, auto for your car, equipment might be your digital camera or whatever you're using to film Or, of course, nowadays, people just use a lot of their phones, but this could be any sort of equipment that you're using. It might be sound equipment, maybe things that you're doing for your podcasts or your YouTube videos, whatever that might be. So your equipment, and then your insurance, and then that's your total operating expenses. Understand, right here, your compensation and your lead gen, that's the lion's share of a millionaire real estate agent's operating expenses is compensation, because you're paying your administrative staff, you might be paying your ISAs. And so there's that heavy portion of your compensation. So again, you might not have a team today, but you might be focused on building one in the future. Just understand, you're gonna be looking at about 14.4% of your GCI. What I'll also point out too is compensation at 14.4% of GCI, compare that to 30% GCI with your operating expenses, that's 48% of your operating expenses. Faces, people, 48% of your operating expense. If you're not paying anybody, that's not your concern right now, right? But then when it comes to lead generation, that's 9%. So 9% is roughly 30% of your budget, of your operating expenses. So just recognize that may be the heavy part, and it probably should be the heaviest part of your operating expenses. And then, maybe occupancy isn't, you don't have a desk fee, maybe you're just strictly working from home. Education and coaching, though, you should be, especially in our current market, if you're not investing, or have a coach or somebody that's working with you to help provide you resources, help guide you, bring accountability. Invest in a coach. Maps coaching, or Stacy's not here at the moment. I know Cheryl is interested in helping people. I'm helping folks, but you should be getting coaching, especially in this current market. So any questions about the difference here, or the breakdown? Are there any other expenses that you feel like you're taking on that aren't listed here? These are the main ones, but those first two, compensation and lead generation, those are the big ones. Do these percentages, I'm sorry, do these percentages surprise anybody? Okay. All right. So now, Cheryl, we'll move on. We'll chug along. I know I'm going fast. Slow me if you need me to. All right. So again, we talked about the benchmarks, and on page 5.7, we're talking about the budget benchmarks. These are our benchmarks. This is what we're looking at from the millionaire real estate agent when they're doing 2.5. They're looking at that 30, 40, like gross profit doesn't really matter too much. We're more concerned about our cost of sale, our expenses, and our net income. So that's our 30, 40. You can see where that fits in there. For someone who's grossing $1 million, this is our net $1 million, this is our gross $1 million. Those numbers look a little bit different, right? So as we scale, we get bigger, our cost of sale goes up, but our expenses go down, because you're probably getting more organic, more word of mouth, more referral and repeat business. And so that naturally becomes a little bit more cost effective. Plus you're dialing in your systems. And so now you know what's returning that investment, that return on your investment. And so you're just getting better. You're getting better at your craft, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you're right here, this is your single agent, all right? So compare yourself. Look at these numbers. Where are you in your GCI? Remember, that's your revenue for your sales for the year. So how much are you making in gross commission income? If you sold 10 houses at 7,500 on average, gross commission, you'd be at 75,000. If you sold 20 homes at the average gross commission income, you'd be at that 150. Do you know this number? Do you know what you've generated from a commission income standpoint? If you know that, then you can start to compare, where am I on this chart? This is what, when Gary in 2017 interviewed agents from across the board, these are the averages of what they were seeing. Okay, but understand these are our best practices, because this is where we want to be.
So they're saying that 150,000 gross, you should have a fire station?
Nope,
No,
right here
solo agent.
is solo agent. Yeah, so your cost of sale your cost of sale is gonna be to your brokerage and royalties and referrals, okay?
So it says expenses 57, but the net income 73. So 57, that you're just saying that we can and admin and whatever.
Correct, so this is gonna be your gross commission minus your cost of sale, minus your expenses, so lead gen primarily, right? We just saw that that was the heaviest expense, but also all of those other ones, the training, coaching, auto insurance, all of those things kind of fit here. And so your expenses are gonna be higher, remember, because you're trying to grow your business.
And you're doing it all yourself.
And you're doing it all yourself. You're your transaction coordinator, you know, those, so it takes all that time and energy, so.
Every place is the top part, but then expenses, yeah.
Uh-huh,
Yeah, because that's like, we've talked about my finances and how, when you look at my GCI, I'm doing really well.
Yeah.
But I haven't really been tracking my expenses, and that could be a big portion of like where my money's actually going. Yeah.
and that's right. And so the reason we're highlighting this, the reason we're doing a business planning clinic is because that's the vast majority of agents. They're not tracking those numbers, but right. And so you gotta slow down. Maybe it's time blocking, right? Because if it's not on our schedule, it doesn't exist. We time block some time. Maybe it's on Sunday. Maybe it's while you're sitting in an open house. You bring your computer, you pull it up. Okay, while I'm waiting for somebody to show up, I'm going to be working on tracking my numbers, right? Doing a reconciliation. But ultimately, what we want to be doing is tracking these expenses, because if you're not tracking it, you don't really know what you're making. And, you know, if you were working in the W-2 world, you'd know what you're making, right? Like, I know what I'm making, and if someone was keeping that behind a veil, we'd be like, what, wait, what? I'm working, I don't know what I'm making. We gotta know our numbers so that we know what we're taking home, what we're, you know, how we're bringing in that money so we can go grow our business, support our families, give charitably. We know what our actual net is. And so that takes some time, but if you build systems, so again, trying to do this on the fly is hard. Building a system around it, something that's gonna help you track it, that's when it starts to get easier. And once you've built it, then you're just plugging in information.
Earlier, you were asking about what you put down. Like, what was your one takeaway from what you were spending? My thing was that, so just do it, don't do it, well, just do it, and then you're good. Stop, don't do that anymore. Right, dude, what? You're doing a little better, and I guess that's what I need to do.
Well, and I'll tell, so I can't remember the exact number, but last year, Keller Williams agents spent something ridiculous, like $240 million on, $260 million on Zillow. I don't know, something crazy, hundreds of millions of dollars. We actually, agents made less in gross commission incomes on those Zillow leads than what they spent. So oftentimes we see the activity, we see the money that's coming in, we see, but we're not tracking how much we're spending each month to generate that, and how much, you know, we're paying back to Zillow on that cost of sale as well. And so, right, if you are spending that money there, you gotta know, again, you gotta know your numbers, you gotta know what that return is. You can't just say, well, I'm getting transactions, I'm getting units. If those units are making you unprofitable, is that, from a business standpoint, is that a business worth owning?
And sometimes you have to also educate yourself on what the best way to track those things are.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you're gonna track your expenses for your car. Are you gonna track it, you know, use it to do mileage? Are you gonna do, charge your business, you know, the standard rate of, you know, 50 cents a mile, or are you gonna just, you know, let your business own your car?
Right.
And do it that way. And so it's those are all things you've got to figure out in
And
a
that's-
business plan.
Right, and that's where I would say, don't talk to me about that, talk to your CPA.
Yeah.
Talk to a tax accounting that specializes in knowing the best way for you to account for that information, and best way to report it, and it might deduct, right? So
Yeah.
that's,
My daughter did when they started their business. They got a CPA for like 1 or 2 years. And she just fed them the paper,
right,
you know, paper receipts for about 2 years, figured out how they were doing it. And then she just went to QuickBooks, and now she does it herself.
Yep.
But she did hire somebody for a year or two to just gain the knowledge.
Yeah.
at the end of the year, that CPA can put all those numbers together and then two things, what you're spending and what you can write off.
Right,
That's another big number you need to know.
that's exactly right. Because we know, I mean, you're a 1099, but there's tax advantages to real estate. There's tax, there's things as a business owner that you're going to want to be able to, but a lot of us come from the W-2 world. And so those things were always taken care of, and then you just file your taxes. So going back to this point, your CPA, even if you're a solo agent, ends up in your people, right? Like who's somebody in my business is gonna make a difference? Well, financially, they might not be somebody who's gonna feed you referrals, but it's somebody that's gonna be empowering your business and making sure that you're making the money that you assume you're making. So I think and then helping you keep more money, keep more of that money as well. It's not a matter of what we earn, is what we keep. That's the mindset. How much am I keeping? All right. Yeah, it's all right. Yeah.
Is in the $320,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, very closely.
Similar, yeah. Yeah, isn't that interesting? But so at this point, you're probably at the place where you've started to hire admin support. Right? You probably haven't gotten to the point that your business is feeling the pressure that you should be hiring somebody to take those transactions off of you, and now you're paying them a percentage of your cost, your commission. But you should be at this point, for sure, probably at either, stage 1 or 2, where you hire your lead admin and maybe your transaction coordinator. That person that's gonna help you build the system so you can continue to scale, and then that person that's bringing the relief by handling some of the work that's not high dollar producing activities. And so that's where you're at here. And so that's why, as a solo agent, where you're at from a total commission standpoint, you're still seeing similar numbers as somebody that's right here who's starting to build it out. Because at this point, they've made more hires, even though they're making more gross commission income. Yeah, good observation. So basically, I mean, you can go run along here. This is, in many ways, this is going to be like solo agent with maybe an admin. And then you can see where you're scaling your business and actually bringing more people into it, right?
It's the best of the far right, where the cost of goods sold was presented goes down. Does that have a lot to do with your own broker? Where you're not paying a brokerage?
No, you're talking about like right here?
Yeah, is this all independent agent?
No.
Where does it cross the line? I'm thinking your own brokerage, because that's where your cost of sales is gonna drop. It's become your own brokerage.
So
I think it's just a team that is heavy on buyer's agents and listing agents and that sort of thing, without the benefit of shifting those percentages in your favor as you build out the other system.
and the other thing I'll say is, again, this is your best practice. This is following the model. The model is you hire your administrative support, while most get to these points, start hiring a bunch of agents. And so when you're hiring a bunch of agents, now your cost of sales are going up, right? And so that's why here, that 30% is because they followed the model and they recognize that I need to have more of that administrative support to just help my business function and support the other members of my team. But you're hopefully by that point able to free yourself of time, and now you're able to go work on your business. So anyway, that's the mindset here. You're going from solo agent to mega agent that's got just an absolute crazy good balling team. But this is what people are typically doing right now when they've built a team that's doing 3.4 in GCI. They've hired a whole lot of agents, but also understand that their net income is only 748. Well, if you follow the model that was presented when Gary wrote the MREA, you're making 50. That's a $250,000 difference when you follow the model versus doing it entrepreneurial. It's pretty substantial.
Well, unless, yeah.
Well, here's yeah, they're at 3.4 million as opposed to 2.5.
If you wanna be big, you're gonna make money.
That's exactly right. You can be both. You can be both. And so Cheryl's gonna take us through the org chart, and we'll take a deeper look into that as well. All right. Operating expenses.
I might have gone ahead a few slides, that's just the next slide. There's
See,
no slide for maybe where you are right now. I can
Okay.
go back.
Okay.
Benchmark.
that's okay. So you can tell me when the expense, when is the expense cost of sale? When it what?
But from there, it took that to get to the actual close.
Yes, it comes out of your closed transaction. When is it an expense? When is compensation an expense? What's that?
Whether or not.
Marketing, a marketing person.
What I would say is your expenses, your compensation expenses are the things that you're gonna pay no matter what, because it's an expense. So whether you close the property or not, you're still paying that person to do the work that they're doing, right? So cost of sales only if you close, expenses no matter what, because you have decided that that's what you're gonna spend. Lead generation, right? You go and you decide you're gonna do the stickers on Papa John's, right? Whether that returns a profit for you or any sort of GCI and revenue, you're still gonna spend that no matter what, right?
Exactly. This is if you were marketing a specific list, wouldn't that fall under cost of goods sold?
No, because it may not sell. You might pay that expense even if it doesn't sell.
Yeah, that's right. So if you're spending the money to market that property, and let's say it ends up expiring. You've spent that as that's an expense because you now paid that, even though it fits into why you're doing it, right? It's a cost, it is a cost of goods sold, but understanding you're gonna spend it no matter what. It's not a percentage of the gross commission income at the end. And so when we think of the cost of sale, it's the percentage that comes off the top when that home closes. Yeah.
Another thing we were talking about one time is there anything in here that's really from, I don't know where to put it in, but like to keep the clients happy.
Yep.
There's like brand, I don't know.
Yep.
That's retention.
So, like-
Referral, repeat, like,
Right.
I didn't see that number in there.
So that-
I mean, big
It's just
cost
the
of money.
slide. It may or
Yeah,
may
thank
not
you.
fit into one of those, but
Let's see.
Oh, general prospecting and marketing.
Yeah, that's right. It's lead generation. So even though you're taking care of let's say it's like post-closing gifts, right? Because you want to, or you're doing an open house for that person because you want to continue to lead generate off of that closing.
a housewarming.
I'm sorry, household, yeah. That's gonna fall into that general prospecting and marketing. And it is an expense because that's a cost, right? You're gonna spend it no matter what, even if it doesn't, it's not coming out of a commission check. But that is where you would definitely put that into your lead generation budget. It's like post lead generation, but it's helping drive more referrals, and then hopefully one day they still remember that how great of an experience you gave them. Yeah.
Okay, so is there any suggested budget range for that particular, or is that just personal?
Yes, there is. That's
So
what
are
they
you
said.
talking about from the standpoint of, for like what she was, what
Like
Kristen was just talking about?
Yeah, so like, extra client spending, so closing gifts or, a repair, I wanna get it appraised just to satisfy the client, make them feel better.
You're catering, what is the
It could
stop?
be, that could be under listing management.
Yeah, you got this right here, right?
So those percentages are suggestive of, you should stay within this range and for that person.
So what this is what the data shows.
Okay,
This is what people are doing,
okay.
and so it gives you an expectation,
Mhm,
right? It kind of helps you see, am I doing better? Am I spending more or less?
mhm.
If I'm making more of like this 150,000 GCI, I've sold about 20 homes at $7,500. Am I spending, $5,000 this year on listing management. Am I spending, is my general prospecting marketing budget 11,760, right? But these are your best practices, right? Like this is what the models show that make you the most amount of money,
Okay.
all right? But these are big businesses too. It might not be where you are, and so that does fluctuate from like a single agent or someone who's just starting out. You're not going to be here.
And the big thing that this does is, say you're at 150,000 GCI or 340,000 GCI, what that should tell us is, I don't want to be spending 9% in prospecting if I'm making either of those things, right? I want to be somewhere between 7 and 8%,
Okay.
right?
That makes
So,
sense. Yeah.
and this is in MREA. Pardon my book, it's falling apart, but it's in the budget model section in MREA.
Mhm. Oh, and it's actually, so I totally missed it. It's on 5.7 as well. It's on the bottom half of 5.7. That's why I was like, where's the slide? So I moved on. All right,
You ready?
yeah, let's keep it moving. So here's your MREA P&L statement. So you've got your income, your cost of sales, which leads to gross profit. Then you track your expenses, and now you know your business profit. You know your below the line income. That includes interest income, your vendor supply income, profit share. If you're getting profit share here at Keller Williams, that's where you can put that income. And then below the line expenses, employee profit share, other pre-tax expenses, and your income tax. And now you know what your net income is. Okay, so this, again, this is a powerful tool. If you don't have a P&L, you should absolutely have your profit and loss. So I would say go ahead, like if you got an action item, which we'll be writing down here in a few minutes, here's your action item. Develop your P&L. Okay,
Isn't that available through command?
I think we actually, don't we have a, I think that might be something that is available in
In KW,
In
not in
Connect.
command.
Yeah.
But I
Connect.
mean, KW has.
Yeah.
This electronically is a
Mhm.
spreadsheet, right?
Yes, yes. Any questions about the P&L? I did fly through that, but I do wanna. I think we've kind of covered a lot of this information. Again, with income, you got your residential income, your listing, your sales, new construction, you're able to track where that income's coming from. And identify what it is through your residential income sales. If you do commercial, there's your commercial, you got your cost of sales, commissions paid out. Now you got your gross profit. So we've covered, and then here's your nine sources of your business expenses that we already covered. So the P&L kind of ties a lot of that together. But this is how you know what net income you're receiving, so then you can go out there and buy your investment property. Or you can go out there and make your hire because you need that leverage. Whatever it is, if you don't know what this number is, it's going to be hard for you to go out there and know I can go and take this money and invest it into my future. So for those of you who are looking to go buy those investment properties, you need to have P&L. And then you need to have a P&L for your investment vehicles as well. All right. Lead with revenue. So before we get to this slide, we talked a little bit about lead with revenue. Just want to reemphasize, we don't lead with debt. We don't lead with credit cards. We lead with our revenue. We lead with our profit. Our profit is what we use to then expand and grow our business. Yes, Audrey.
I was pretty, like, I'm really cheap.
too.
I would like to, but I will say, like, it really helped me sticking to that when I was first getting started too. Like, I did go ahead and buy myself like 3 signs. And then after I sold a couple houses, well, really after my first year, I got by with my first year with like 3 signs. I went out and bought like 10 signs, but I had the money to do it. And it makes it, you know, do it the cheap way and you will be so grateful. You'll be so grateful you did. So do it the cheap way and know what you need and just, yeah, definitely lead with revenue.
Yeah,
That's like what helped me a lot.
yeah.
A lot.
It just sets your business off on the right path.
Yeah.
Think about, I mean, the pressure you face when you lead with debt and now you owe that back. It just intensifies all of those negative feelings. And so if you can start with, I'm generating revenue, I'm profitable, and I want to continue to scale and grow. So there might be some, like buying signs is kind of a necessary expense. You should have that anticipation when you come into the business. But then when you're talking about some of these other things that you would like to be able to spend on, you can't spend it if you don't have the money. You can't spend it if your business is not giving you the authority to go do that. And so that's why the profit is so important. If you're not able to generate profit, and then you're also looking at financially moving forward. Okay, what are my trends showing? Are my trends showing that I'm going to continue to be profitable? Am I getting consistent income? And so then you start to know, you can start to project. All right, where am I going? I know what's in my pipeline. So if you're not tracking what's in your pipeline, then you don't know what's coming. And so now it's all guesswork. You're living on hope. I hope something comes, right? And so if you can build that pipeline, you can start to project and you start to know, I've got business coming, and so I've got profit. So now I can continue to know I can expand my business. So, and I was going to explain red light, green light, but I already did, right? Everybody understand what that is? Okay. And then stick to your budget. Once you've set your budget, stick to it. Do not divert. Do not suddenly get attracted to the shiny object. Stick to it. You set it at the beginning of the year and stick to that budget. And then get into a rhythm. So like we talked about, prepare your budget for the upcoming year now. And then use what's transpired up to now over the last 9 months as the projection for what you should be able to spend in the upcoming year. So that's why our business planning now. We've got roughly 90 days until the start of the new year. Set your budget based on what you've done so far this year and project that forward. All right. All right. All right. So this is your business plan for the budget model. So you can go ahead and start to plug that in. So this is the money based on the MREA. And then you can say, okay, this is my budget plan. So go ahead and take a couple minutes. It was supposed to allow about 10 minutes, but we don't have that ability right now. So again, begin with your GCI goal. Right there at the top, write in what your GCI goal, how much revenue, how much sales volume do you want to project, and then understand that that leads to what your GCI is. What is my revenue for the year? And then enter values for my budget plan based on your GCI and how you run your business. I think for the most part, everybody's kind of said I hadn't really tracked a lot of that information. So what you can also do is then track it based on these percentages. Okay.
And recognize that you might have a big goal for next year that your current financial situation does not support. And so while you want to figure in these percentages based on your goal, you may not want to start spending that in January, February, March. You may want to hold off until you get some of that money in the bank.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Because you are an admin and there's three times.
They're supposed to help your business grow.
Three times the transaction.
Mm-hmm.
3 times where you are. And it doesn't mean in the first 30, 60, 90 days, but after 90 days.
After 90 days, you should see that your business is moving forward and growing.
Model for the next year, kind of admin should be, the GCI goal should be 3 times what I did last year.
So it would be more so of a return on that investment, right? So that 3 times return on your investment. So what are you spending in salary?
And then,
So did your GCI grow $90,000? Right.
So I took it as if I invest $100, then she should at least help me get $300.
Yes, that's it. So if you're going to pay that admin $30,000 for the year, you would expect your business to grow $90,000 in GCI.
Over where it currently is.
Over where it currently is. Because otherwise,
Your goal might be higher than that.
leadership is very rewarding, but there's going to be some time invested into that. So if your business isn't growing, then you've brought on somebody that now you do have to devote, they're gonna take, the idea is they're gonna take more time off of your plate. But there is going to be some things that you have to do to be able to lead that team and continue to grow it. So that person, that lead admin should be the person that's helping you develop your systems, track these numbers, help you with your marketing, do your
You're stealing
transaction
my thunder.
coordinate. What's that?
You're stealing my thunder.
So, sorry. Yeah, and we're almost there, aren't we? So anyway, yes, 3 times.
And I was thinking with that, there's also a curve, like you have to account for a curve if they're coming in based on their skill set. So there might be a curve where it's kind of downward and then
Absolutely.
upward. Because you may have to train them and they have to learn your leadership style. So, yeah.
And Cheryl will get into that too with the org chart conversation as well. Let's jump to 5.23. Write a couple ahas and action steps. There's some ahas. I'll give you a couple action steps. Create a P&L, create a budget, create a balance sheet, or hire a CPA, or invest in QuickBooks. There's a few, right? But also know your numbers.
Budget.
Balance sheet.
I actually recently did a profit and loss statement. And in some ways it was better and in some ways it was worse than I thought. Like, I was like, oh man, I definitely thought I spent way more here and
Yeah.
not as much here. And so it kind of was like, I don't know, it is eye-opening when you actually track your expenses. Here we are in October, right? So I did it last month and I was like, man, I would have done, like, you can just see where you would have done a little bit differently. So it is actually really eye-opening when you actually track it because you realize, oh my gosh, I spent so much on staging furniture. Like, but it's fine.
That's so good. That's so good. And it, like one of the slides earlier says, it's not about accounting, it's about accountability.
Yeah.
Right? Holding your money accountable.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's what this model is all about. How do you hold your money accountable?
Good question. On these percentages, this is based on the proven MREA model, right? So if you adjusted those, that's outside of the model.
Yeah. Yeah. But also understand where you're at. You can also compare it to what you saw on the chart. But also that's just what people, like what the data is showing they're doing at that level. You might be able to run it more efficiently, right? And so some of those numbers look even better and you can be striving for that 30, 30, 40 in your own business.
And if you choose to spend 8% in lead gen, then that means you need to shave 1% off of something else. So just be aware of that.
That's right. So give and take model. That's right. All right. Org chart. Org model.
So remember in our team meeting today, when we talked about our Y4C2Ts, remember that? What's that? W, win-win or no deal, I, right?
That's right.
Remember all this? What's the S? Don't say anything.
Success
Success,
through people.
results through people. Okay? So the organizational model is all about how do we have success and get results through people. Just tying it back in, right? So this is the 4th model of the MREA. And it represents the last L on leads, listings, and leverage. So you want to look for where can you find leverage in your business and how do you go about doing that in a way that follows models and systems for success. So we're going to talk about what the models are, how you can use them. How will you know when it's time to hire your first assistant? When you're maxed out,
When you can afford it.
when you can afford it.
What's the number of like
30 transactions. That, so we're going to, talk about a lot of those variables. Knowing when you hire your first assistant is very similar to in your home, when you know it's time to hire a contractor or a housekeeper, right? You know that you can do stuff. Maybe you can, I can't fix stuff, but you know, there are some things that it just makes sense at a certain level to be able to hire that out versus trying to do it yourself. So part of that is figuring out where's that sweet spot and understanding if you don't have somebody to do that work for you, it's your second job. Your first job is an agent, and then your second job is all those other things. The transaction coordinator, the marketing person, the stager, the sign runner, the home inspecting person. So think about that. And then as you process, some people love paperwork and other people hate paperwork, right? You know who you are. I know who I am. I know my best and smartest hire ever was a transaction coordinator, well before I was at the level of hiring a full-time assistant. So that way I have a little bit of leverage for the process, and then I still am not spending a chunk of money for the other things. Let's take a look at the org model. So this is the full-blown 7th level model. And this has been updated from what is in the MREA. You'll see some terms here that are slightly different from what we've seen traditionally in the MREA. So this is the ultimate goal in a business. If you think about it, a realtor, the day you stop selling real estate is the day you stop getting paid, right? So when you're ready to retire, if you don't have a business that will continue to earn money, or if you don't have a transition plan, your income potential stops, right? So the goal is to help you understand how to build a business worth having. And I would say a business that will keep paying you, or a business worth selling, right? So whatever that looks like, you can go to the next one. So at the very first level, you are in the center and everything revolves around you. All the production, all the contracts, the mindset, the vision, all of those things, you are at the center. Let's see what else. If you don't have a housekeeper, you are the housekeeper, right? If you don't have a transaction coordinator, you are the transaction coordinator. So there are 3 key areas to think about when you are growing your business, growing your organization. If you look at page 6.3, they are your leads, your people, and your market. So as you're thinking about growing your organization, when you think about your leads, and you can jot this down to the side, you have appointments that you've missed or people that you can't serve. That might be an indicator that it's time to hire somebody because you're too busy. You're missing converting leads. Somebody's lived in your database and you see that Audrey has just sold them a house. Right? That might be a clue. Unless you're Audrey, that might be a clue that it's that you have an opportunity. People, let's say you have a transaction coordinator, or and you just can't do it all. You don't have enough time and you're stressed out, all of that. It could be an indicator. Okay, I need to hire some help. And then market, on the right-hand side of that, is, are you missing an opportunity? Do you see, oh my gosh, if I just had more time or energy or leverage, I could really go after Pee-wee football parents and do XYZ? Or retired people who need help with wealth planning and wealth transition, and it's a whole market, and I have the people, I just can't do it. Right, so those are some indicators that it could be time to bring somebody on. Avoid the fantasy that you can just hire your way to growth, though. You need to have the growth and have the systems first before you add people. Otherwise, you're just gonna throw good money after bad or bad money after good after good. People tend to hire out of pain, and following a model keeps you from doing that. So you wanna hire when it's right for your business, not just when you're hurting. And then the other thing is, as you think about hiring, make sure that you know what you're looking for, that you have the tools to hire wisely, that you have the systems in place before you hire. And here's what I mean by that. Keller Williams has our career visioning series, and it's a great tool to help you learn how to hire well. It incorporates how to go through the Keller personality assessment, the KPA, how to do that, how to go through the interview process, questions to ask, how to check references, not just the people they give you, like all of that, it helps you. And do these people line up? Do their skills and their strengths line up with the needs that I have? I may love Danielle and I would love to work with you, but your skill set isn't what I need, right? And that doesn't mean we still can't be great friends. It just means you want to be a smart business owner, right? Some people choose to hire a family member or, somebody that they just met at a networking event, and, oh yeah, you need a job, I'm looking for somebody part-time. Perfect, but that may not be the right fit. And then the second part of the career visioning is understanding the 30, 60, 90-day process. So you have a job description in place already for what you want. Before you hire somebody, you already have a job description. You know what you need. Now, it may not be perfect, but it at least gives you a starting point. And we have tools for that. How do you keep them on track? What's the process in 30 days? What should they be accomplishing? In 60 days, have they met those, what kinds of coaching conversations do you need to have with that person throughout that time frame?
Is this slide actually in the book?
Yeah, it'll be on the next page, but she's actually talking about, right?
I don't see all the notes. I don't think that was good.
I
The
think I'm
hiring
ahead of
process.
you. The
She's on-
hiring process.
She's on
6.3.
6.3, number 3.
Sorry about that. So when you think about hiring, you want to think about how you leverage the tools, the technology, the systems that's there. Career visioning, that's what I'm telling you. Before you hire somebody, you absolutely should attend a career visioning session. And then as you are doing your lead gen, keep your eye out for talent. I love, Kristen, that you said you have a tag for talent, or that's somebody that you're thinking about, because you may not need them now, but in the future, they could be great talent for you. And then if you think about the types of talent, 3 different kinds of talent: potential, emerging, and proven. A potential talent might be a young professional that's just entering real estate or coming straight out of school. They may be inexperienced, but they have skills and the natural behaviors and motivation for the job. You just haven't seen them in action. The benefit of hiring potential talent is that they're probably the most affordable of the 3. But they're going to take more on time because you're going to need to spend more time training them for the things that you're expecting. Emerging talent is somebody who has the talents and qualities with a proven track record, but it might be short. Maybe they were on a team for a little while and they just didn't like selling, but they loved XYZ. So they have some background, or you've seen them and they've done great admin in another setting, right? So that's proven or emerging talent. So they've got some of the pieces, but not all of it. And they're gonna be a little more expensive. They may require a little less time because they have some additional,
Experience.
thank you, experience. That's the word I was looking for. And then proven talent are people who already have a long track record of success. They come with a price tag, right? So if you wanted to hire somebody like Crystal James to run your office, she's gonna come with a big old price tag,
$1
right?
million.
And she would be worth every bit of it, right? So you just have to think about that. Where are you in your business? What can you afford? And understand that sometimes proven talent have their own ways of doing things and they may not be as coachable, right? So you just have to have those kinds of conversations early in the interview process. So finding the sweet spot is probably somewhere around the emerging talent. You've seen some success and they're not going to take as much time, hopefully, on the training side. When you think about a bad hire, somebody that you bring on board and it just doesn't work out after 90 days or longer if you're not quick to hold someone accountable. What could some of the costs be for a bad hire? Jot some of those down in number 6. What are some of the costs for a bad hire? What could it cost you? I'm gonna read out something. It could cost you the time to recruit them and train them. That's lost time. It could cost you salary, management time, overhead. It could cost you your lost productivity. It could cost you lost clients, lawsuits, damaged reputation, damaged morale or culture, other turnover if you have additional people, and it can cost you momentum. So think about that. It is important to hire well and to honor your worth as a business owner to make sure that you're hiring the best person for where you want to go in your business. And have a written job description, and there are those on KW Connect. Okay, next slide.
That's all. Are you gonna move on?
I think in the interest of time, we're gonna move on.
Okay.
But I will say no, you're fine, you're fine. Many coaches suggest that if you are between 35 and 45 units, that it's time to leverage. So my take on that is probably somewhere, unless you're like Stephen Avery or me, you may really want a transaction coordinator very early on after the first 2 or 3 deals. And that's different than an admin, right? I heard Sarah Reynolds, who owns the Empower Home team out of Northern Virginia, powerhouse leader. And I heard her say on the stage at Family Reunion one time that she hired somebody at, I want to say something like 20 or 25 transactions. And she said, because I needed leverage, not just in my business, but in my life. She has a family, she has lots of kids. And that was the first time I had heard that. And pardon me, gentlemen in the room, women in the room, if you have a family, if you have children, often you're running your business and you're running your household, and you may need leverage in one or both places. So this is a model, and I was really pleased to hear somebody say that. That was like, oh, I'm not a failure if I can't keep it together at 25 transactions, right? So know your thing. Thinking about hiring transitions you from being a salesperson to really becoming a business owner, right? The second level is when you add someone as an admin, and they help with hiring, training, accountability. They help with your systems. They help with all manner of things. You can give them marketing. You can give them transaction, And then the next level, go ahead. Pro tip, I'll just say at the bottom of that, don't hire another person until you have an excellent admin. But eventually you're gonna get to an overload where this admin is gonna say, I can't do it all. And the reality is there are two different skill sets, because the admin person could be more marketing and business growth. And the transaction coordinator is gonna be that person that handles the day-to-day of your business. So that's your second hire. Just remember that the first 90 days is all about the ROI, and it's gonna require some of your time. Victoria was wise when you said it could be a little bit of a curve, because you're gonna be training that person. Let's see. Going too deep means that the people who report to you have their replacement hired and in training. This is how you always want to have that next person ready. So the talent, you want to have that next person lined up so that you can step right into growth opportunities.
What you might also find is that you hired this person initially, right? And they ended up being they're great at transaction coordinating, but they're not gonna be the person that's gonna be a leader for here, because this person's reporting here. And so what you find is you might hire this person first, and you hire this person second. It just worked out that way.
Yeah.
So.
And
it gives
especially
you
if you're
different
only
things.
doing transaction coordinator and that's a per closing deal, that's not really like a true assistant, right?
I know you've given the job descriptions before, but like you broke it down in clinical lead admin,
Lead admin would be doing database stuff. They would be doing marketing. They would be doing, they could be doing financials. They could be doing lots of things. The transaction coordinator is the contract to close and maybe some other things related to client management.
And lead admin is going to be helping you manage the transaction coordinator, so that they're, holding them accountable that the process is going smoothly and the communication is staying strong. Admin's also, like, you talk about client events, right? We were talking about client events earlier. They're helping you organize, promote
All manner.
everything when it comes to that client event. So.
Okay, next
I just
slide.
went online and Googled, Keller Williams new hire job descriptions, and it brought up a page that gives the
Oh, yeah.
basic.
There's tons of stuff on KW Connect, and when you do career visioning, you'll have more of that as
I
well.
think you can access, if you go to KW Connect and go to the KW courses, you go to career visioning, and I think they're listed there. If you don't have access, I can get them for you.
You can go to KW Connect and check resources, and then it should show up, I think, under leverage. And then you can find the job descriptions there. Okay, next. So once you get past level 2, then you're going to start to add some people who actually you do some of the real estate work. And this is where you see a shift in how that has worked before. This used to say buyer's agent and listing agent. And now it says showing assistant and lead manager, or an ISA or an OSA. So just be aware that there's a move in the industry, and this will help in terms of profitability as well, to not necessarily go with the buyer's agent right away. It could just be you have a showing assistant. It's somebody that may or may not be licensed, but they don't want to do all the buyer's agent stuff. But they may go to open houses for you. They may open doors for you and work with the client. So how that might work out, Jack, I'm so glad that we're gonna be working together, and there are times that you're gonna be looking at properties with other people on our team. So Kristen is amazing, and you're gonna love, meeting and getting to know her. So you just set the expectation on the front end. Sometimes people who start a team say, oh, they only wanna work with me. And the reality is, they wanna work with your experience. So whatever the experience is, as long as Kristen can carry out the experience with that, it will be great, right?
And that showing assistant too is gonna be somebody that's super personable, super sociable. They're gonna be like that people person, right? That people love, and you want them being kind of a face of your company, but they might not be the best buyer's agent,
Negotiator.
right? Like they might not be able to negotiate a deal. They might not be able to be organized and work. So that's why that might be somebody, when you KPA them, that they're a high fit for the showing assistant, but they might not be a high fit as a single agent or buyer's agent. Listing specialist.
But they do have to be licensed to be able
They
to
do.
show and do.
Yeah,
a
they
house,
do.
right?
Yeah. To be able to open doors.
So just be aware that that's a change in what was originally the buyer's agent and the listing agent. And now you'll see that there's a whole focus on ISA, inside sales agent. And then once you have some growth in the inside sales agent, then you may also add an outside sales agent. And then you can see how this begins to morph. So you've got a lead admin who oversees the transaction coordinator, and eventually a listing manager. This would be the person that does the marketing and input for all the MLS stuff and coordinates all the signs dropping off and, you know, all that stuff. So this is on the admin side. And then on the lead side, you've got your ISA person who is here, who then grows into being able to manage another person to do this. And then they continue to grow the business as well on the lead side. And then on the showing assistant side, you may start out with the showing assistant who has great capacity, and they can become the lead buyer's agent, and then you add additional showing assistant. And recognize that the cost of sale for a showing assistant actually would be an expense, where a showing assistant is going to be a lot less than the cost of sale for a buyer's agent. Okay, so kind of thinking through those changes.
So, if I understand this correctly, we recommended when you get to that particular level, it's a little admin, followed by, the transaction coordinator, followed by, so, I'm about to get one,
Showing assistant.
and then the lead.
One's gonna save you time, one's gonna bring you leads.
Mhm.
What need do you have in your business if you gotta hire one?
Yeah, there's not necessarily this or that. You just kind of see at that point in your business what makes the most sense for what your biggest need is. I'm sorry.
Probably depends on if you're doing more.
Right. Right.
Yeah, in this case, you've got so many leads that you can't keep up, you can't show all the properties, right? In this case, you don't have enough leads, and so I need help generating more leads, and so I need to make this higher so that they're pouring more leads into my database.
So, I guess it might be relative to each person, but as far as time, you could potentially hire one or the other. Well, you could potentially hire a lead manager and may have to put it after, depending on how you convert those leads, you may do that.
That's right.
Exactly.
Because if you come in and kind of do this from the beginning, or like I did, when you came in and didn't do it, and then you're like, you already have business going so much more, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just remember that your lead admin is responsible for making sure that the admin work is being done not by the sales department or the lead gen department. Two different functions. Okay. Let's see, what else shall I point out to you? The lead manager hires the inside sales associate or the outside sales associate, however you choose to do that. And then, so we'll just, I know we have like 8 minutes. So I'm just gonna briefly go through the next couple. And you can look on page 6.9.
This is bottom 6.7.
6.7, the bottom of that. And that's part 5. And now you're adding, or the 5th level, you're adding a director of operations. And you're finally adding a listing agent. Okay, and see, you're still right there in the middle. And what happens though is you only 3 people report to you as you get to this stage. The director of operations, the lead manager, and the lead buyer agent. So like that lead admin more than likely converts to a director of operations position. This makes sense? And then when you're in part 2 of level 5, then you may add, some additional people. When you add a listing agent, they're going to report to you as well. So initially you do it all, right? And then you have somebody and you're like, oh, I'm so glad you're here. And you give them as much as you can. And then they start to help with that, right? So it's just showing you how to grow in a way that's sustainable, that's profitable, and eventually, next slide.
But you're saying, Cheryl, that it's not until the 10th hire, you're hiring somebody to do listings for you, right?
Right.
Because at the, all the way up until this point, you should be handling your listings because they're not as time intensive, right? So you got a whole department for your buyers before you ever hire a listing agent.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then when you get to the 6th level and the 7th level, the 6th level, then you begin to expand because you've got a great system and you've got great models and it's repeatable and you can expand to the next location. And then part 2, you have a director of expansion that drives that business. So the Reynolds team, which is now the Empowering Home team, is an expansion team. They're in Virginia, they're in North Carolina, or getting ready to move to North Carolina. They're in Atlanta, maybe Florida, I can't remember. There are other teams that are in multiple states. So just know that there are lots of opportunities to grow. And let's see, the goal really is eventually you, on the 7th level, you have a CEO and you are not the CEO, right? Then it is a business that you can step out of. You still have input with the CEO, you're still earning from the business, and yet you're replacing yourself. Does that make sense? How can you see that that might be different than how some businesses are run in our state, in our region, right? And this is very sustainable. Okay. Let's see. So no, okay, yeah, we'll just skip that.
Just understand there's a model for expansion as well.
Keep going. All right, so let's talk about where you are right now. And I just want to remind you some traps to avoid. Avoid skipping career visioning. It's an important step if you really want to grow your business well. Avoid not having a P&L and understanding the cost of each hire. Avoid not checking in with your budget model. Avoid skipping levels. Avoid not having solid systems in place. And avoid hiring just for the sake of having a big team. Right? And leverage command even before you hire your first person. Plan how you want to do systems within command, how you want to set up your database, how you want those things to work.
So the main systems, when you're talking about systems, are you talking about smart plans, or you're talking about systems as far as?
All of it, all of the above.
Use your technology first.
Mhm.
Sometimes your hire can help you to some degree
Yeah,
implement the technology if you yourself are not tech savvy. Well, you're at that point in your business that you need that kind of leverage and support. They can then help you get your technology, get your smart plans, run your campaigns and help you build it. But they should be trained. If they're not already trained in command, they need to be taking the 66-day challenge. They need to be attending Roy classes every single day. They need to be fully engrossed in the command training.
yeah. And that will only set you up for greater success. So think about where you are right now, page 6.17. Who is on your team right now?
We talked about this earlier. You might not have a team, but you have a team.
Yeah, you might have a coach, you might have vendors, you might have your sisters, right?
Referral partners.
Uh-huh. Now, think about the areas of mastery, again, on page 6.17. Where are you? Low to high. Just take a minute and look at that. How are you with your presentation? How are you with coordinating contract to close? With money, with training, with accountability? Where do you fall? Just put some little dots there on this grid, 6.17. Maybe that will give you an idea of how ready you are for a hire and where your biggest needs are.
Showing buyers. Marketing sellers, I guess, it's showing, showing houses.
That's your showing assistant.
And so you're,
How are you doing in that area?
so the places that I'm trying to get the chart, the places that you're high at, you're just saying keep being high at those and higher people that you're not really on, that you're low at.
I think it's an awareness that are weak or lower and or where you need to up your skills.
Or where it's going to save you that time and energy so that you can do better dollar producing activities, right? So you can, if you're hiring a showing assistant now, you can be focusing on your lead generation. You can be focusing on your sellers, right? You can be
Getting
focusing,
more listings.
yeah, getting more listings because you're not spending an entire afternoon showing 4 houses.
Yeah.
And you're putting somebody in place that is highly skilled and extremely personable. It's going to give them a phenomenal experience.
Yes, my highs are showing by apartment sellers. So it feels like how could I briefly come back?
So that is your standards. Those are, who you are. So when you make those hires, you've got to make sure that you train them so that they're basically representing you
To the same level.
to the same level. Because people do hire you, but what they're really hiring is your quality of service, right? So if it's the Krista Massey team, but it's being shown by Jennifer Dukes, is Jennifer providing them the level of service that you want representing your business?
And let me also just say, if you are thinking of starting a team, I would encourage you not to make it your name in general, because you have greater growth potential and we saw this with Sarah Reynolds. They changed their name from the Reynolds team to the Empowered Home team because they were going into markets where people didn't know her name anyway. So food for thought.
And when you go to sell your business, you don't someone might not be equipped by the Zach Willis team because of who the heck is so.
People selling their
Everyone knows
Absolutely.
that. Okay, now take a look at 6.19 and we are over time. So if you need to leave, please understand that there is no harm, no foul. And we will wrap up quickly. So where would you like to be in the future in your organizational model? And you can make the future this time next year, or you can make it 5 years from now. Where would you like to be? And what roles would you like to add? 6.19. And what steps do you need to take to get there? That's the second thought on 6.19. Mhm. Just pick one thing. Pick one or two things, right? You don't have to have it all figured out.
Some of this is, right, like the beginning stages.
Mhm.
Understand that these are the begin, like we know where we're trying to get. That's that first box. Right? So now we start to decide, okay, how are we gonna get there?
It might be to get my business to 35 transactions so that I can have the capacity to add a team. Or it might be to hire a transaction coordinator.
Instead, so like you hire your first and just move to 35. So that's something that's 40 or that's what happened.
Yes.
So when you get into the sidelines, is there a transaction level attached to the side?
No, so the first hire is your admin, unless you hire strictly a transaction coordinator that doesn't do anything else. And that's not a full-time transaction coordinator, which is part of the level 3. So that's kind of when I say, yeah. But if you are hiring a full-time transaction coordinator, that would be your second hire. The first is your admin, who's going to help document all your systems and do transaction coordinator. And then your next hire would be a full-time transaction coordinator. You may have a part-time hire before you have an admin, and that would be an as-needed transaction coordinator that is only paid when you close. So those are gifts from God if you can like this one.
So this year, the third level was at 20 to 30. Or maybe more.
Technically-
35 to 45.
Yeah, technically the model's 36, but understand that everybody's different. You might be doing higher dollar homes; those can be more time intensive, but they're also going to generate more gross commission income. So it's the pressure of your business. You shouldn't just go higher if you don't feel the pressure of your business, because anything you're hiring is going to add to your expenses or cost of sales, right? In this case, it'd be your expenses, and so that's going to come straight off your bottom line. So the whole concept of I just want to hire for the sake of hiring is what we're saying. Don't go do. But once you hit 36 transactions, more than likely you've gotten to that point.
Yeah, I think, first of all, I was thinking what, Cheryl was saying, if I need time leverage.
Yeah.
Because I might have other responsibilities outside of real estate, so that the admin might be essentially that person, so I would even take the time to write down my systems. I have it in my head, but I take the time to write it down. But in hiring that we admin, they would then start putting it like SOP or something.
Yeah.
Could be.
And they can also help document them for you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now, for the lead admin, because I don't know if we already talked about this or we're planning to talk about it. The lead admin is expense or cost of sale because they're compensated by commission or
Expense.
hourly.
They're gonna be salary.
Expense.
Salary.
They're gonna be salary. Yep.
The transaction coordinator you pay only if you do close, even if
If
they
it's
do work.
part-time, it would be, if it is strictly a transaction coordinator, it would be cost of sales because you're paying them once it closes. But if it is a hire and that's somebody that just does it all the time, then that would be
So they're taking a risk.
expense.
With the part-time PC.
I think most TCs, that you would work in, like you would want to have that conversation right on the front end. Like, this is what's going to happen if the
If the deal falls
if
apart,
it falls apart. And maybe they say I would still want, instead of $300, I want $100, since I did contribute some more. A lot of them will say, look, it's not enough, you should close the table. So.
Okay, so take a look now, take your 6.21, which is your 411. And you'll see in here, it already has the information from the economic model, that those blanks are in there. The lead gen model, those blanks are here, some of that's filled in. The budget model, some of those blanks are filled in, or at least written out. And now you have the opportunity to fill in the organizational model pieces. For example, your annual goal would be to attend a leverage series event, to analyze your lead gen and budget models, to hire how many people in what order, right? And then your monthly goal would be to register for career vision.
$1 million real estate book is, for instance, that's gonna take-
I'm sorry,
a $1 million real estate book. For example.
yes,
Right?
yes. And just recognize that this has been updated, that look, yeah, you're gonna, I mean, this book, if you, I mean, it is the playbook, right? And what you read today, Victoria, you've been licensed how long? 2 years. Who's brand new? Nathan? What you read today in this book, you'll look at this book next year and you'll be like, I never saw that. Or wow, this makes much more sense now, right? And then once you've read this at 2 years, then Audrey, how many years? 4. You'll be like, oh, I get it, right? So this is a book that will grow with you in your business. Likewise, the leverage series, I hear people say, and this is recommended, especially as you continue to grow, that the leverage series is not a one and done training event. Like you take it every year or as often as you can, because you're going to learn new things based on where you are at that stage in your business. Make sense? Okay. What are your ahas from and let me just remind you, we've talked about the drivers for hiring, leads, people, and market or missed opportunities, the hiring process and path, traps to avoid, how you might next use tech. We talked about that briefly. What are some of your ahas? And the leverage series will teach you to hire slow, hold someone accountable, and then if it's not working, to transition that person quickly so that it's not a lose-lose for you, for both of you.
Probably heard that term, fire slow, fire fast.
I should not say fire, but transition quickly.
I was just using the term.
Yeah. What other ahas?
I think when I was around the military support, maybe not. Maybe a lot. She wants to have her to help you. Everything like you feel like spiritually, so you like but you've done it as part of spiritually, so that others be more prepared for this time to actually.
And again, going back to the Reynolds team, it was the other way around. It was the mother who started the team and then the daughter joined and now they've. Okay. Action steps. Ahas. What are the action steps that you may have as a result of this
section. Write it down. What's at least one thing that's an action step as a result of the organizational model?
We'll bring some of those to Market Center as well. Yeah. Some of them are done virtually too. I know they've done a leverage series. I get emails about it all the time. You
I
can
do
go
think
online.
the leverage series is a long class
Yeah.
and it is, I think it would be better in person, but I have done it online and it's doable. It's just easier to stay engaged in person.
I think one of the questions would be, because this section of this one a lot faster, so I'm still trying to. But, so from an organizational standpoint, I guess that would be a question, what would be the good action step if you're not in the place of this happening? You know, I would look at this like this is funny, it's one of the actions that you could be really good. What would be a good thing if you're not necessarily in the place to work something?
So maybe it's starting just to identify talent and put them in command. Maybe it's just read through the organizational model in the REA and just getting that in your brain. It could be starting to explore transaction coordinator, cyberbacker companies that exist that can provide leverage without it being a full-time hire. Maybe it's talking to other people to find out how they've done things in their teams and what they've done. A good question I always ask is, what have you learned the hard way? People love to tell you their answers for that, and you can learn some good stuff. So it might be more in the learning side, but also in the getting your talent pipeline ready too. Okay, Zach, he's gonna help
All
us
right.
put it all together.
So this is just a quick wrap up, very, very quick wrap up. But what I'm going to encourage when we go to pull it all together is we've gone through this. You've gotten 401s at the end of each section. You've got action items at the end of each section. You probably have a lot of marks and things along the way. The nice thing is here at the back of the book, you have an opportunity to really pull it all together and look a little bit cleaner, organized, nice, and you can start to build it out. What I would highly encourage after attending today is go ahead and do this now. Don't wait. You put it off, it'll never come back around. And so you've got to make sure that you do this while it's fresh on your mind, while you're in that goal setting, planning mode, and go ahead and start to build this out so that when really right now, again, we're on that 90-day cycle, the actions that you're taking today are the things that are going to feed your business come January. So do not wait, do not put this off, go ahead and fill it out. So we're looking at the 411. On the left side of your booklet, you've got the 411 action goal worksheet. That's more of your typical 411 where it's talking about your annual goals, more so around your business, your monthly goals. On the right side is a different 411. I would encourage you don't build both out, just choose one. Choose one that you prefer out of that. And if you like being able to have one sheet that tracks your business goals, your job goals, your financial goals, and your personal goals, or if you just want this to be strictly for your business, then maybe that one on the left is the one you roll with. Then you've got the economic model, the actual and the pro forma. I know Victoria, you were mentioning earlier that you were kind of written on one and, accidentally. So again, these are just those forms for you to be able to build out that economic model now that we've gone through it all. Same with lead generation. We talked about the database. How many contacts do you need? What are your lead generation sources currently and for the future? If you're making any adjustments to that, how many calls do you need to make daily? Your 19 to connect touch campaigns and your 36 touch. And then we talked about the budget model, know your numbers, and then your P&L, and then your future organization. When we talk about the future organization, please just understand you might, like Nathan literally just got licensed, right? So this is like, I'm not even considering that, right? Like I'm just joining, like I joined a team, I'm trying to figure out how to sell real estate. This is right.
I don't even have numbers yet.
Right. Right. I don't even have them.
Yeah.
Like, oh, wow.
Like a high schooler.
I'm gonna tune this one down. All right. But what I would say is this is like future, right? So we talked about someday goals, 5-year goals. You might not be there and you might not feel like you're anywhere close. But understand that's why we set this. This is your vision. This is where you're going. If you don't know where you're going, again, it's staying appropriate in the moment. So if you know, like I'm going to build my business, I'm going to lead generate, I'm going to know my numbers, and I'm going to be successful, eventually you're going to hit a point where you're either going to say, okay, this is where I am and that's where I'm going to stay. I'm making the amount of money that I want to make, and I just want to be an active salesperson, or I'm going to find leverage and I'm going to build a business with other people. And so just understand that as you're successful in real estate, you're going to eventually hit this point. You'll have to make a decision on, do I continue to grow or do I stay where I am and just continue to do the activities that I'm doing? So this is that's your vision plan, right? Along with what you're doing today to build your business and build it in the midst of our current economic cycle. People are going to still buy and sell real estate. People are still going to move. People are still going to have babies. People are still going to unfortunately pass away and unfortunately get divorced. There's still going to be people who need to buy because they're renting and their rent just jumped $300 a month. So you want to be that person that is holding that key when they're ready to go, right? So what you're doing today and what you're doing with this business planning clinic is going to make for you to win and grow when the market might not be. So congratulations on being learning based. We talked about the 6 personal perspectives. You were learning based by being here today. You're investing in your business. So I applaud you for being here today. So thank you all. Appreciate it. It's been a long day, but hopefully you gained a lot out of it. So thank y'all.
Jennifer Moore
Oh,
said,
okay.
she said that she really enjoyed today and she has learned a lot, and she'll be in tomorrow to pick up her booklets and MREA.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
Wonderful. Love it.
In the back, I don't know if it's in yours, let me look at mine. If you would go to KWUeval.
Oh, yes, thank you. I'm so sorry about that.
KWU, Crystal, would you write that on the board?
Mm-hmm.
KWU. Oh, there we go.
There it is. There's a slide for it.
Okay. And just take a minute and fill out an evaluation for Zach and me. You'll need to go in, the Market Center. It'll be, the name of the course is Business Planning Clinic, the Market Center. You can list that. Our Market Center. It'll ask you for the region, which is Virginia. It'll ask you for the instructors, and the names on that drop down are the heavy hitters, and Zach and I are not on that list.
We're not.
So you can add the instructor names. So add Cheryl H. Smith and Zach Willis. You may have to do it 2 different times. And then it'll ask you to do an evaluation for each of us based on several things. And that would be helpful for us.